Here's an interesting story, funny enough, coming from Bloomberg. It says Andrew Yang says supporters may go to Sanders in Iowa caucus. Now, if you don't know how the Iowa caucus works, or any caucus, there's precincts, okay, in which essentially there's a group of voters, and in each of those precincts, if a candidate doesn't reach 15%, those voters have to vote for somebody else. So let's say in a precinct Andrew Yang doesn't hit that 15% margin, well then that means that those voters have to go vote for someone else. And so what he's saying is his supporters may go to Sanders, right? So says Andrew Yang said he won't be surprised if his voters end up supporting Bernie Sanders in later rounds of the Iowa caucus voting, a development that could strengthen Sanders' already surging campaign in the state. Speaking at a Bloomberg News reporter roundtable in Des Moines, Yang said there is a, quote, overlap between his supporters and those of the progressive Vermont senator. Quote, I think that Bernie and I do have a lot of overlap in support, so it wouldn't be surprising to me if many of our supporters head in that direction, he said. Yang said that several candidates whom he would not name have reached out to his campaign about supporting them. And so in the RCP average, he's at 3%, which, if they end up going to Bernie Sanders, that is actually going to be really crucial because he's already in this sort of big lead right now. In some polls, he's in a massive lead where he's winning by over 10. In other polls, he's winning by a couple points, 3, 4, 5. The RCP average really ends up getting watered down by bogus polls that always, for some reason, have Bernie losing or have Bernie less than the average by multiple points. But if that 3% from Yang goes to Bernie, and then that 1 or 2%, whatever it is that Tulsi has there goes, that's like a 5% boost, which is massive in Iowa. So I would consider this to be a light endorsement. I'm not going to lie. That's what I'm going to call it. I don't care if you disagree. I'm going to call this a light endorsement because he didn't mention any of the other candidates, and he certainly didn't need to admit that his supporters may go to Bernie. He certainly didn't have to do that. He could have strongmanned it and been like, no, we're in here for us, and we're going to meet the threshold. He could have said that, or he could have done that stuff. He didn't have to mention Bernie. In fact, I definitely didn't think he would. So he definitely is doing this sort of light endorsement for Bernie Sanders. He didn't mention any of the other candidates' names. So clearly, I think that Andrew believes that Bernie is probably the closest to him, I guess, and stuff, or his supporters believe that. So I think that that's why he's going in that direction. And Bernie's probably like the closest, I guess, to implementing a UBI. So I guess maybe that's why. Or he just sees that his supporters are, possibly going to Sanders. So very interesting story, but it would be cool if the Yang supporters go to Bernie Sanders because that'll be a huge boost for him.